Matt Gaetz is out. Matt Gaetz is out because he wanted to remove the distractions from this pick. Check it out.
We have breaking news this hour. Matt Gaetz is stepping down from his nomination to Attorney General of the United States. Many said this was the most contentious of the nominations made by former President Trump. And he has announced categorically that he will not be seeking confirmation to the post of Attorney General. Here are his words. I had an excellent meeting with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There's no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to seeing that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. Look, Griff, this was quick. I mean, the appointment came as a surprise to many. And we will see what happens. We know the deputy is Todd Blanche. That was Trump's attorney in his case with Alvin Bragg here in New York. Many suspected that if Gaetz did not make it through, that perhaps Blanche would be elevated.
Well, we'll see where it goes. And I think really the question over what Matt Gaetz does next is really fascinating because he resigned from the current Congress. He was elected to the next one, but his resignation officially set in motion Governor DeSantis standing up a special election quickly. Gaetz's district in the Panhandle is very Republican. It was always going to be a Republican that replaces him. The question now is, will Gaetz run in his own special election to try and get reelected back to Congress? And the question about, there was clearly, Kaylee, pressure building.
Sean Z says, here, I'm going to show this because I actually believe this is true. Sean Z says Anton Gaetz was a plant to draw out the rhinos. Trump is too smart. I believe that also. I believe that Matt Gaetz, when they went through, even though we control all the House and the Senate, when they went through, they said that he wouldn't get enough votes, and then they was trying to figure out, and they let this play out for a long time. They was actually trying to figure out, I believe that this was a strategy, that they were trying to figure out who was going to be against Trump's pick so that he can realize and figure out exactly who his ops were, even within his own party. If that is the case, if that is exactly how this played out, because it says Gaetz was being rejected, Falafel says Gaetz was being rejected by Republicans in the Senate, I think that was a beautiful play. It was a great play to draw out who the bad actors were, who the ops were, so that before he even get into office, he can address that accordingly and be able to move how he need to move to make sure that he gets stuff done in his administration and over the next 2 to 4 years. The sentiment amongst the people was that Matt Gaetz was a plant to then draw out the ops to figure out exactly how he needed to move and who was going to be his opposition going forward. Let's continue.
Sources at Capitol Hill telling me and every other reporter in Washington that this ethics report was likely coming out. And now maybe that's up in the air now that he steps away, or maybe it accelerates it. That's yet to be seen.
It is yet to be seen. You know, Harris, so he resigned from the 118th Congress. And when he gave his speech on the House floor announcing that resignation, he said, I do not intend to take the oath of office for the same office in the 119th Congress.
Have y'all noticed how this is probably the first time that we've ever heard this level of scrutiny and this much promotion and visibility from every single pick? Every single pick makes national headlines. We never even really paid attention to all of the people that Biden was appointing. We never paid attention to what was happening in Obama's picks. Nobody really questioned what Kamala Harris was going to do if she wound up becoming president of the United States of America. The only thing that she ever mentioned was that she would probably consider somebody from the Republican Party as a part of her administration or a part of her cabinet to ensure that she got things done. Nobody ever questioned it. Every single pick is scrutinized. Everyone. Even when we have bipartisan agreement that the federal government is too bloated and it needs to have an audit, they then started to criticize Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for creating the Department of Government Efficiency.
You have to ask, does he now take that back and try to be a congressman, or does he go away?
He said, but you caught what he said, the same office.
Yeah.
DeSantis has to appoint If Michael Waltz, congressman, moves on in his nominated post, if Marco Rubio, senator, moves on in his nominated post, he's got some positions to work with there in that state. Could it be Matthew Gaetz, who then becomes a U.S. senator for an interim in the state of Florida?
That's an interesting thought. I mean, Cassie, there's also the notion that Trump could appoint him to a big and powerful position that does not require Senate approval. He clearly thinks fondly of Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is someone who wants to drain the swamp, who wants to shake things up in a big way. Trump could put him in a big position, just one shy of needing Senate confirmation.
Yeah, these are all very interesting scenarios to see how they play out. It's no secret that Matt Gaetz doesn't really sit with anyone at the lunch table in Congress. He's made a lot of enemies and he's turned people the wrong way. But that's not to say that he's just going to go away and say, you know what, all right, we don't get along. I'm going to go back to Florida and hang out on the beach. I think he has higher aspirations. I think you're right. We know President Trump really likes him and thinks that he is a great defender of his agenda. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him again sooner than we think.
There's also the ethics committee. I've watched several members, Democrat and Republican, talk about this. There was a loggerhead. There was not an agreement to release the
Billy says no way that Gaetz was a decoy. Okay, so let's explore it on the other side. All right. Let's assume that he wasn't a decoy. Did the results, was it still beneficial? That's the thing that we have to ask ourselves. Was it beneficial? Whether he was a decoy or he wasn't a decoy, did it then still draw out the same results, and did it draw out the enemies or the people that was against Trump that helped him to realize how he was going to have to move going forward? Either way, it was a win-win, and I think that Pam Bondi is probably a better suited for the job, but we'll get to Pam Bondi shortly.
Report. You had Democrats saying we want a full vote of the House as to whether this report should come out. Right. Emily, one would think that moves away, and now the ethics report is a done deal and the dustbin of history, but maybe not.
Right. I mean, Senator John Cornyn came out and said, look, this is going to come out one way or another, he said. He was quite vociferous, unlike, for example, another senator who anonymously commented on the record that it would be very contentious and essentially requesting that Gaetz step aside to save him the, quote, embarrassment of that public trial that Senator Cornyn said would be messier than Kavanaugh. It would be even more brutal. So I think that might have played into it. Perhaps we don't know what happened behind closed doors, if there was pressure that former Congressman Gaetz acquiesced.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this super chat. Because, you know, the chat is my co-host. Rather than admit Trump made a bad pick, you want to go with the theory this was just a chess move by Trump. Come on, let's use common sense and not emotional deflection. Trump supporter, but still a realist. How am I don't think that it was a bad pick. I don't think that it was a bad pick. I think that Matt Gaetz is exceptional, and I think that he would do great at the job. The thing that people are complaining about is not whether or not he'd be great at the job, but whether or not they're criticizing the optics of the move. They're not criticizing whether or not he'd be great at what he did at the job. That's the problem with the conversation. And so when I see people say, well, no, he made a bad pick, in whose eyes? The only thing, if this election taught you anything, it's that people only care about the results. They don't care anything about how you feel. They are not tripping about what your perceived background is. They don't care about the allegations that's been levied against you. The only thing that they care about is if you are going to execute on the job that is in front of you, that ultimately put us in the best position as people to ensure that we have a greater opportunity to be great in this country for our families. The question never was, is he going to be good for the job, or is he great at what he does? The question is whether or not we like the optics of what his backgrounds are based off of allegations that was being levied against him. And so you can sit here and say, well, he made a bad pick. According to who? He's not even in office yet. He's not in office yet. The only way that you can say somebody is a bad pick is if they take the position, they get into office, and then they're actually horrible at the job, and then you don't address it, and you don't fire them and replace them with the right person. You understand what I'm saying? That's the reason why we have different legislations, why we have different branches of government, in order to ensure that we are protected against other things that may not be best for us. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Two, in the form of, look, don't jump on the grenade. There was also the thoughts that perhaps it might make other nominations easier. But it seemed as if the ethics report potentially had a big impact. But again, to the senator's point, perhaps that's going to be released no matter what.
If Governor DeSantis were to put him and appoint him, you also get around any sort of confirmation situation. You fill a Republican seat in a state that is red, that's been red, and you know who you have in the Senate. You already have a majority. I mean, I would really watch that if that's what he wants.
Yes, we will see.
Can I just say, if you were just walking it out, because we're just getting this news, and it's like, wow, what if you filled Rubio's seat with Gaetz and made him a senator? Or Waltz. You still don't get rid of
stays in the House.
What Emily was talking about, the ethics report, and what was going to be the consequences. You saw New York Times is already reporting this long stream of payments, apparently, that was part of the testimony to the House.
So Matt Gaetz is out and Pam Bondi is in. And so this was the report from Fox News as far as what they were breaking, as far as talking about Pam Bondi being in. And then we're going to go over to the left. Because one of the things that I like to do is I like to use different sources to get different views, different points of view of how they feel about these different picks, right? So we're going to go to Fox News at first to talk about Pam Bondi. And then we're going to switch over to MSNBC and we're going to talk about how they feel about Pam Bondi now being picked.
Donald Trump picking a new attorney general nominee just hours after Matt Gaetz's decision to withdraw. Fox News Digital's political correspondent Brooke Singman live now with the very latest. Brooke, good morning.
Good morning, Maria. That's right. So President Trump appointing Pam Bondi to serve as attorney general. Bondi served as Florida's attorney general from 2011 to 2019, and she was the state's first female attorney general. Before that, she served 18 years as a prosecutor. Now, as Florida AG, Bondi led efforts to combat opioid abuse and end human trafficking. She also helped recover more than $1 billion in consumer protection, antitrust, and false claims matters. Bondi is a longtime Trump ally, and the president says she will, quote, refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. She is smart and tough and is an America First fighter who will do a terrific job as attorney general. Now, this nomination comes just hours after Trump's first pick. Congressman Matt Gaetz dropped out of the running. This after Trump reportedly told him he did not have the votes to get confirmed. Gaetz congratulating Bondi, saying, quote, Pam and I worked closely together when she was Florida's AG, and I chaired criminal justice in the State House. She is a proven litigator and an inspiring leader and champion for all.
Why do y'all say stuff like this? Is this like a troll or is this a real thing? Somebody says, I think Anton a Mason. What does that mean? What is a Mason? What is a Mason? Somebody tell me what a Mason is. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you something. I'm only a part of two organizations, and I'm going to be very, very transparent about my background. I'm a part of the Saints. Saints meaning saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. So I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus, and I'm a bag chaser. That's it. Those are the only organization. I'm not Phi Psi, Mason, all of that nonsense, Illuminati, all of that crap. Let me tell you something, bro. I am a believer in Christ, and I'm a bag chaser. And if you ain't one of those, then I don't know who you are. I don't even see you. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying now? All right. I just want to make sure that we all on the same page. Let's continue.
Meanwhile, Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez-Derrimer is reportedly being considered for labor secretary. She met with the president at Mar-a-Lago this week, and she also has support from Teamsters president Sean O'Brien. Trump will also name new leadership for the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Now, SEC Chair Gary Gensler announcing yesterday that he does plan to step down on Inauguration Day, while FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg will resign the day before. And we are still waiting on a pick for Treasury Secretary, but the president-elect is reportedly closing in on Kevin Warsh, with the intention of him later taking over the Federal Reserve once current Chair Jerome Powell's term ends in 2026. Trump is also reportedly considering appointing investor Scott Bessent to lead the White House National Economic Council. He would later replace Warsh as Treasury Secretary. Maria?
All right, Brooke, thanks.
So, Matt Gaetz is out and Pam Bondi is in. And we want to explore exactly how the left is reacting to this because I think that that's a better conversation to have.